Okay, thank you, Jimmy Hyung. Nice to see you in person. I've really followed you for a long time. Probably read your almost all of your articles and watched your podcast and any interviews you've been, in Saifedean's or Natalie's or Preston's, whomever. So we are in here, South Korea, Bitcoin Conference 2024, the very first Bitcoin only conference. That's really pity. Only after 15 years. So my question to you is, here people in South Korea has been using real estate as a money, store of value. And we all know the consequences. It's really skyrocketed. So I would say probably any normies, any average young generation here, they won't be able to, buy their own home. For young generation, what would you advise? It can be, of course, buy Bitcoin is the very obvious thing, but maybe beyond on that, what would you advise to young generation?
So you got to understand what the actual cause is. And,
Exactly.
and this is something that not a lot of people think through. But why are the real estate prices going so high? Well, it's the money printing.
Yeah.
And it's the Korean won is basically pegged to the U.S. dollar.
Exactly.
I left Korea in 1985, and back then it was about 1,000 won to a dollar, and it's not. It hasn't fluctuated that much. Right now, it's a little bit more, but all of the U.S. inflation. More than that, there's more inflation than the U.S. dollar inflation in Korea. So that's where a lot of the home price store of value premium is going. Right?
Yes.
Like it comes from the fact that the government is printing lots of money. A large part of why young people can't get homes and stuff is because all the old people have it. Right? And this is just something that happens with a lot of fiat economies, is that they keep things the same. So there's no really transfer of wealth or anything like that. And I'm sure many of the people that are watching this know about how terrible it is in almost every industry, where you have to wait like 30 or 40 years before you even get a chance to get like a senior level position or something like that, or try being like tenure track faculty, or head of a partner at a law firm, right? Anything, right? Like
they're all now huge bureaucracy.
Well, not
basically.
just that, but it's the people at the top don't want to leave.
Yeah.
Right? They just keep staying and staying and staying. So really it's the old stealing from there. And that's ultimately what it is. And if you're going to play, I think in a sense their hopelessness about their current situation is correctly diagnosed. They're recognizing that the game is rigged against them. Because it is. The way to go against the system isn't to stay in the system, right? It isn't just go do whatever they say, because that's leading nowhere. What you need to do is to do something else.
Opt out.
Yeah, opt out. Bitcoiner's job.
Yeah.
That's how you gotta think.
Okay. I think maybe for a part of the solution, maybe you can introduce your most recent book. I read it really interesting, and in fact, I really like the title. I think this is something sort of like homage of Bitcoin fixes this. And Fiat ruins everything.
Yeah, and it's I don't know if you can tell, but that's Benjamin Franklin in a clown costume in the back, in the cover, and that's it's a clown world, right?
Yeah.
That's essentially what fiat money has come to, and it really does ruin everything. And I'm going to try to convey in the presentation tomorrow how specifically it ruins birth rates, but we'll see.
You know how low the birth rate in South Korea, right?
Yeah, it's 0.76 or something like that.
That was like 2-3 months ago, and now it's 0.6 or something.
Okay, well in Seoul I know it's like 0.5.
Yes.
Yes. I mean that's ridiculously low. So I'll talk about that, but it's mostly because you're getting stolen from, and no one has any hope. So.
Okay, I will look forward to it. And any sort of like last comments for young generation here?
Yeah, and don't lose hope. That's the thing, right? If you're getting like sort of hopeless about like trying to study to get into like a good university or something like
Get
that,
your diploma.
yeah, I mean that's not the right path. You got to think outside the box. You have to think otherwise. Otherwise, you're going to get sucked up by the system and it's going to chew you out, right? Like, and I mean that's basically what South Korea is known for. All my other Korean friends like tell me like do not ever work for a Korean company if you're in America because they treat you horrible.
Yeah.
Right? Like they make you work way more hours and stuff like that. That's kind of what's demanded, and a lot of Korean people just sort of do it. There are better ways, and you just have to come up with different models, be more of an entrepreneur and provide goods and services directly.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to do this other stuff, which is go down the path that somebody else made for you, and it doesn't work. It's unsustainable.
Okay. So, look forward to tomorrow's talk and.
Yeah, still have to work on it a little bit. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for the short interview.
Okay.
Thanks, Jimmy Young. Oh.
You're welcome.
So thank you, Stefan, for joining me. And as a head of education of Swan, maybe you can give some advice for Bitcoin education content creator in South Korea, including myself.
Sure. I think the main thing is try to stay in touch with people who are new. And so an example of that is like, let's say you're at a Bitcoin meetup, pay attention to the kinds of questions that new people are asking. And then that can give you an idea of how to craft your own material, whether you're writing articles, you're doing podcasts, you're making videos, because you need to be able to put your head in where the typical new person is coming from. And what happens over time is, especially once you have been in Bitcoin for a while, you have this thing called the curse of knowledge. You forget about the early things that you first learned.
When I was a newbie.
And the way to stay in touch is to keep talking to new people. And so one way you can do that is be at Bitcoin meetups and so on. So that's kind of a way that you can learn and stay in touch with what are the new people thinking. How are they thinking about this thing? And so that gives you a better, I guess, perspective on what kinds of questions you should be answering.
Yeah, so it's about keep myself as a newbie mindset when I first learned about Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Okay, that's really great advice. The next question would be, let's say, sometimes I figure out, maybe it's better to explain, instead of explaining what is Bitcoin, it's better to say we need something like Bitcoin. Let's say, in that sense, could you maybe share your thoughts?
So an example there is think about Safety book, the Bitcoin Standard, right? Like he doesn't mention Bitcoin until a certain part in the book. So it's a similar idea that, and I've been saying a similar thing in a way that people won't understand the point of Bitcoin until they understand the problem with fiat currency. And so sometimes you can't necessarily push an idea onto people. They have to be ready to accept the idea.
Yeah.
And so the way I go about it is more just like I put this material out there and whoever finds it, and you never know who's listening, right? You never know who's going to listen or read it. And, now there are people who translate, whatever podcasts or articles I've written around the world. And I often don't even know that it's happening.
Yeah.
So it's the same kind of thing. Like you just try to answer the question for people. And if it resonates, if you're doing something that's useful for them, they might then pass it on, or they might use it as part of their own journey.
Okay.
Maybe you're not the person at the top of the rabbit hole, but sort of once they kind of get further down the rabbit hole, they find you, and that's where you can help them.
Okay.
So it's like there's a saying. It's like when the student is ready, the master appears, or the teacher appears. So sometimes people are just not ready, and you sort of have to find somebody who is ready to learn about Bitcoin.
Yeah, okay, that's a great advice as well. So maybe this might be the last question. In South Korea, if someone asks you like, do you just do some investment or like what do you do? And if I say, I'm doing Bitcoin, I'm working on Bitcoin, I'm doing Bitcoin as a hobby, and then 100% they will say, 코인 하시는구나, meaning you're doing crypto. So that's the biggest misunderstanding, I think. And what would be your know-how to, really? in light.
It's hard, but you have to try to explain to them why Bitcoin, not crypto. Why Bitcoin, not crypto? Why Bitcoin, not crypto? Like, why is Bitcoin special? Why is Bitcoin a special thing that's more decentralized? It's actually robust and accessible, and it makes certain trade-offs that, you know, it's quote-unquote not as fast. The blockchain is, you know, once every 10 minutes on average.
Yeah.
So there's certain trade-offs that you have to accept as part of Bitcoin. That's just the reality of using Bitcoin. And so sometimes it's difficult to communicate that to people. I mean, do what you can, but it's you sort of have to take them to a place where they can sort of understand the reason for some of the trade-offs, right? Like in life, sometimes you have to choose one thing and reject another. And it's hard for people because they just want to have both. But it's like, no, you got to learn to choose one thing. Why are we choosing this one thing? Why was Bitcoin designed the way it is? And there's a reason if you actually reason through and understand why it was designed in that way.
Okay. Any, you know, final thoughts on Korean audience, especially for young generation?
Well, I see it as an opportunity to save. It's an opportunity to improve your financial freedom. And now it's not a short-term gamble. It's not like a get-rich-quick.
Of course.
That's the wrong way to think about it. You have to think of it as like a 5 years, 10 years kind of horizon. And if you think of it as like, I save, I work, I earn money, I save my excess into Bitcoin, and then I think of it as my long-term savings, I think that's the productive way to look at Bitcoin.
Yeah, it's the safest safeguard our precious labor, the hardest money on earth ever.
Yeah, because I think there's really no alternative, right? Like ultimately, you're either going into stocks, property, gold, art, I don't know, whatever. Like you have to pick something, and realistically, Bitcoin is it. That's how I see it.
There is no second.
Well,
best.
yeah, like Michael Saylor says, no second best, right?
Yeah, okay. So thank you for joining me today, and hope you had a great journey in here, Korea.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Which one's the best crypto asset? Well, Bitcoin's the best crypto asset. Okay, what's the second best? There is no second best. There's no second best crypto asset. There's a crypto asset. It's called Bitcoin, right? Right? There's no second best, okay? But take all your money, buy Bitcoin, then take all your time, figure out how to borrow more money to buy more Bitcoin, then take all your time and figure out what you can sell to buy Bitcoin. And if you absolutely love the thing that you don't want to sell it, go mortgage your house and buy Bitcoin with it. And if you've got a business that you love because your family works for the business, it's in your family,